The Eye of Shiva. It's impressive. My man worked for a week and turned up nothing.
They probably hired the wrong expert.
Perhaps. You know, a Hoysala poet once wrote of a young king who showed mercy and thus ended our rituals. But the old kings, they understood that progress demands sacrifice.
Is that what you tell your men?
All right. So, in times of war, these aqueducts, they would run red through the capital. Those who would not fight had to be used to inspire those who would.
Welcome everybody, Josh here, back at today with a brand new YouTube video. Today we're talking about this, which is Uncharted The Lost Legacy on the Legacy of Thieves collection. Now, I do have Uncharted Lost Legacy on the PS4. I've had pretty much all of the Uncharted games on PS3, the PS4, and the PS5, and I wanted to check this game out because I'm a massive Uncharted fan. And yes, I like to buy my games multiple different times on multiple different platforms. That really doesn't bother me that much, especially if it's a video game franchise that I had to like, especially with the Uncharted franchise. And with this being a spin-off game in terms sort of this featuring Chloe Frazer as well as Nadine Ross, played by Claudia Black, as well as Laura Bailey. Claudia Black, one of my favorite movie actresses from things like Riddick as well as Stargate. Laura Bailey, a new up-and-coming voice actor to the video game industry. This game also features Troy Baker as Sam Drake, which will basically appear later on throughout the video game franchise. But I really do sort of Uncharted Lost Legacy. I think that it's definitely, while it's kind of a shorter experience compared to that of Uncharted Drake's Fortune or even Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, or even the third one in the franchise for that matter, this game does a lot of really creative stuff. The cinematic set pieces, you get to learn a little bit more about the backstory between Nadine Ross as well as Chloe Frazer, which is basically at the heart of the story, and you get to kind of go through an Uncharted adventure pretty much unlike any other that you've experienced before. And so when I was actually playing through Uncharted Lost Legacy the first time, I was a little bit skeptical if I was actually going to like the story, just because of the fact these are new characters that you kind of get to explore a little bit more out in the franchise. It's basically centered around characters that you really don't know that much about. So it's kind of like, how is this going to fare towards something like, the Nathan Drake brothers, where you kind of learn over time that they're kind of heirs to Sir Francis Drake, and that they're kind of looking for lost treasure along the way. This game is no different. I think that with Lost Legacy being a spin-off game, it definitely works in terms of the dynamics between the two lead female characters in this game, basically Chloe Frazer as well as Nadine Ross. And I'm going to put this game down and talk a little bit more about this video game in a little bit. And you get to learn a little bit more about the two titular characters of this franchise, which is Nadine Ross as well as Chloe Frazer. Chloe Frazer is basically in India. She's living through the Tusk of Ganesh, and you get to see a new locale, which is the Western Ghats. And I think that Western Ghats in this game is fantastic to explore. You will have to utilize the map, which is a new feature in this game. Gone to the more linear experiences where you kind of know where you need to go in terms of the game story, and it kind of pushes you along. You get to basically choose where you want to go because it's a more open world style narrative compared to that of the linear ones that you see through Uncharted Drake's Fortune, through Uncharted 3. And while I was a little bit used to the Uncharted 4's more open world aspects of this game with the Lost Legacy, I really didn't really like Uncharted 4 or the fact that it was open world, just because I felt like it made the game a little bit too massive compared to that of what it was previously in the other games in the franchise. But I still really loved Uncharted 4, the open world narrative, and even with the open world and narrative of a key feature with Uncharted Lost Legacy, you still get to have things like open combat. You get to have things like the cover-based mechanics like you would see Gears of War or either the older Tomb Raider games. And I really do think that adds a lot of replayability factor, because no single combat experience within this game feels alike. And I think that definitely holds true to the more cinematic story-driven narratives. There's a lot of really cool locations that you get to explore the storyline in this game. In the opening sequence, you get to see Asab, who's this basically nerdy style businessman who's a warmonger basically, and he's trying to hunt down the Tusk of Ganesh, which is all the new item that Chloe Frazer as well as Nadine Ross are trying to acquire in the course of this game. And you get to see that he's willing to basically go to the ends of the earth to try and get his Tusk. Whether you agree with his opinions and the statements in this game is basically irrelevant at this point, because he's willing to kill even his own men, kind of get that point across. And then you get this really cool parkour chase sequence at the beginning, which basically establishes that this is indeed a Uncharted game. There's a lot of really stealth moments in the opening sequence, sort of this scene that kind of culminates in a crescendo, a really big action set piece that reminds you of basically Indiana Jones, the other games in the Uncharted franchise, and then it kind of leads you in India. There's a lot of really cool, really big set pieces for the storyline of this game. There's a lot of really difficult and challenging puzzles, which we'll get to later in this review. There's a really cool sequence that basically takes place where where towards the end of the game, Chloe Fraser and Nadine kind of have a falling out, and there's an APC that kind of chases down after you. You have different RPG and some C4 explosives that are pretty much, basically thrown out towards you throughout the beginning of the game. You kind of get to utilize them throughout different missions, stuff like that, especially if you're using more stealth-based mechanics and stuff like that, which is featured in this game, to kind of take out your enemies. And then you have to take out this big giant armored APC that reminds you similar to that of the APC that you see in Uncharted 4. And then you kind of go to this mission where there's a big giant shootout. Everything's pretty much crumbling around you, pretty much like the older Uncharted games. That's one of the things that really drives home, is the fact that even though this is a spin-off, there's a lot of really cool set pieces that take place within the storyline in this game. There's even a scene where Chloe Fraser basically hijacks a helicopter and takes it down along the Saab, basically being on board that, and that was really cool to see. There's a lot of really cool stealth-based mechanics once you go into that in canon through the game, and then you have to take out the helicopter, which can be a little bit frustrating, especially if you're trying to kind of beat the game in sort of stealth mode and take out bad guys, which there's definitely a lot of trophies, which I keep calling achievements with my reviews. I think that that is a really cool sequence, along with some of the other set pieces that I'll be showing you guys B-roll footage of in this game. The actresses that portray their characters, with Chloe Fraser being this treasure hunter that's been basically doing this as long as Nathan Drake has, especially with her backstory being explained throughout the course of the story, along with Nadine Ross, who's also kind of looking for the glory and sort of the fortune for herself, and she's always been kind of living in the shadow of others while also trying to kind of become sort of something more than sort of herself. I think that that's one of the things that I can really relate to the storyline in this game, and while I'm not really a female myself, I can kind of, throw myself attached to these characters that you really didn't know that much about sort of the other Uncharted games, even though they're featured a little bit in those games. They're not featured prominently in the story, and I think that's one of the things that really drives home for the fact, while this is sort of a spin-off game in the franchise, it doesn't feel like by any stretch of the imagination. So I think if you're paying either full price for this game like you would be on the PlayStation 4 version, or the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection, the Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection on PS5, I don't think that you're going to be let down by either the graphics, because the graphics in this game look cinematic just like they did in the previous games of the franchise, and all the cutscenes are rendered with using motion capture, so feel realistic. The graphics are really on par with anything on terms of the PS4 and the PS5, especially with the PS5 version of this game. It feels like you're thrust with that cinematic Indiana Jones and Tomb Raider style experience they're kind of going for when Amy Hennig originally created this franchise. And while Neil Druckmann is basically the game developer of the Uncharted franchise now, I don't think that he's a lot of that sort that was the Uncharted games, even though he's doing the spin-off games of the franchise itself. And so it kind of gives you that thing where you kind of want more from the spin-off games featuring both Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross, and it keeps you wanting more in terms of a spin-off game in terms of the franchise with Victor Sullivan and possibly even Sam Drake. They kind of close it off where they're leaving it open for more games in the franchise. You really don't know what's going to happen in terms of the ending of this game, and that's one of the things that I really do like about Uncharted. So it's never really about treasures, about sort of the characters that are basically thrown around in these really death-defying stunts and stuff like that you see that are on par with any new franchise that come out to this day. And so some of the crazy things that happen in this game is kind of the reasons why I'm not really as impressed with modern day big budget blockbusters, because video games have been getting so good to the point where they are kind of rivaling that of even modern day blockbuster films. That's one of the reasons why, among many, I've been trying to kind of talk about video games a little bit more channels, because this is one of those video game franchises that even during the thing that shall not be named, I played a lot of. I kept coming back to Uncharted, and I have like over 500 hours in all the Uncharted games just because I really do love this franchise and keep playing this game a lot. It's definitely one of those video game franchises that gets me through not only good times in my life but also bad times, and I think that it's one of those games that's basically like comfort food. And I think that Uncharted Lost Legacy, while there are some really difficult puzzles in this game, there's one that takes place sort of a platform, and there's like statues that are like swinging their blades at you and stuff, and if you get hit by them you have to reset sort of the platforms and everything. There's a trophy involved with that where you have to kind of get them all in sort of this seat where you're supposed to jump from platform and not get hit, and then you kind of get this trophy. There's a trophy in White Dots where you kind of have to drive around this area in a specific amount of time where you're supposed to get that trophy as well, which is a little bit frustrating, especially if you don't really know the layout of the area that you're trying to. So there's a lot of really cool side puzzles, especially one that happens where you're supposed to find all of these medallions, and then once you unlock the medallions, it'll help you get the other treasures that are strewn throughout the rest of the game. And then once you get the treasures throughout the entirety of the game, you get a trophy for that as well. I think the different trophy aspects of Uncharted kind of keep back and replaying more, just because you kind of want to basically platinum trophy the entire game, like I did with the original Uncharted games of the PS4 before the films came out. I'm going to probably end up trying to do that with Uncharted 4 as well as Lost Legacy as well before the second movie comes out, if there is a second movie. I really do like these games. I definitely think that if you're buying Lost Legacy, you won't be let down with the fact that this is a short game. I really do like the fact that while this is an open world experience, it is also really, really short, and everything that you like about Uncharted for the parkour aspects, where you're going from building to building, where you're climbing, the sides of cliffs and rock faces, where you're kind of using the grapple that you see in Uncharted 4 to kind of get to higher locations, is all still there. It's all still basically part of the gameplay mechanics and the shooting and the gunplay that you get within this game as well. Nothing's really taken away from that. It's really cool to see Easter eggs thrown around to this to other video games and movies that Claudia Black has done with Stargate, where she's always using the P90, which is a huge gun that's featured heavily in this game. I typically went with the P90 whenever I kind of went with a gun, just because it's Chloe Fraser's gun. But there's an assortment of different guns, and they all handle a little bit differently from each other, which I really do like. The action in this game is just like Uncharted 4. So if you really like liked Uncharted 4, you're basically getting more of this game, even though it feels kind of like an expansion to that game as well. And so, even though this is basically technically a spin-off game, like I stated multiple times in this review, there's nothing lost with the storytelling elements of this. It still feels like the hero's journey that you see from Drake's Fortune down to Uncharted Drake's Ascension and Uncharted 4. And this does feel like a cinematic experience, kind of like they were going for with the other games of the franchise. This is definitely pushing the hardware to the PS5 to the maximum. So I think that if you're a huge fan of Uncharted, you should definitely buy this game on the PlayStation 5 and check it out for yourself. So that is going to be my review for Uncharted Lost Legacy. I'm sorry that I said spin-off game so many times in this review, but I wanted to really hammer it home. This is not Nathan Drake's story. This is not Sam Drake's story, even though it does appear towards the later half of the story. But this is Nadine Ross and Joey Frazier's story. So if you really like those characters from the original games in the franchise, and you want to see more of them featured heavily in this game, you're definitely not going to be let down by Lost Legacy. So as always, guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think of Uncharted Lost Legacy. What's your favorite game in the Uncharted franchise? Do you have a favorite game in the franchise, or do you like all of them pretty much like I do? Is there a game that you like a little bit more than the others, and are you looking forward to possibly seeing another movie in the Uncharted franchise in the near future? So as always, guys, rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.
All right, climb up. I got you.
Oh my god! It's all muscle. That's what they all say.
Come on, come on.
Thank you.
How the hell did you guys get out of that?
You know, I'm just still figuring that out myself.
And, Asav?
Went down with his train.
Well, couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Will you look at that?
Wow.
Yep.
We just did a thing.
We did.
So, what's next for Nadine Ross? Take back Shoreline, conquer the weapons trade.
I'm done with Shoreline.
Really?
Really. If anything, I was thinking I might give this treasure hunting racket another go. Know of any selfish dickheads who might be in need of a partner? Not you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I only work with professionals.
Right. And where's the tusk?
You got... Oh my God.
What?
Sam.
I'm just joking. There you go. You're Ow! Okay. Jesus. That's my last cigarette.
Man, that's a beauty.
Yeah.
How much you think that we're gonna get for that baby?
Well, surely the Ministry of Culture will give us a generous
Yeah.
finder's fee. Right? Partner? Elbow.
You guys are hilarious. Ministry of Culture. Oh my God, you're serious.